What's up, guys? Welcome back to Jimmy Talks. So, in this video, I plan on breaking down 5 core truths, which are fundamental red pills that every single America First patriot needs to not only understand, but to also internalize. This video is not just political commentary, this is a framework for seeing the world as it truly is, by stripping away decades of propaganda and lies. These are the pillars of understanding that explain why our nation feels like it's in a state of collapse, and more importantly, they point the way toward what we must do to save it. Before we get into this video, if you watch regularly, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button, and leave a comment down below and let me know what you think at the end of the video. If you have Twitter, follow me on there, as myself and my other patriots who follow me on there aren't censored, and let your voice be heard. And last but not least, follow me on Rumble in case YouTube strikes me with the ban hammer. Now, let's get started. Now, the first red pill is that another country seems to come before ours when it comes to politics, and almost everybody is aware of this by now. Even the normies are waking up to it. This is the grand deception of American foreign policy. It's the elephant in the room that every politician in Washington, D.C. knows about, but only a few will actually address it honestly. We are not a sovereign nation acting in our own best interest. We are a tool and a source of endless capital and blood to be spent in the service of a foreign agenda. I won't say the country here on YouTube just because I don't want to be banned, as I've worked hard for this channel and any reasonable person can understand that. But I'm sure everyone here already knows what I'm talking about anyways. But yeah, the United States systematically and deliberately subordinates its own strategic, economic, and security needs to serve the objectives of a small nation in the Middle East. This is not a partnership of equals, which is common in the wake of two allied nations, but more so it is a relationship of master and servant. Think about it. We have sent over $150 billion in direct aid to this nation. That's your tax money, which is right there on your pay stub when you look at it, and it's underneath a part that says federal taxes, and sometimes even locally, which is pulled directly from your community, from infrastructure projects that never get built, from veterans care that is neglected, and sent overseas. We fight their wars. Young American men and women have been sent to die in deserts to eliminate their regional rivals. The Iraq and Afghanistan war, which is catastrophic and served no real purpose, was based on the precept of 9/11, which both the CIA and Mossad had intelligence on before it even happened and allowed it to happen anyways. Then on fabricated intelligence, like when George Bush told us that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, which turned out to be false, and was pushed by a group of neoconservative politicians and think tanks, many of whom held dual citizenship with that very same nation. They manipulated or paid off our media, our intelligence agencies, and our government to drag us into a conflict that served their interests and not ours. Also, do not forget that this influence is brutally enforced. The lobbying groups like AIPAC and the AJC for this foreign power is arguably the most powerful in Washington, D.C. They fund political campaigns, they push for legislation that polices American speech, which literally is handed to Congress to be passed, and they destroy the careers of any politician, both left wing or right wing, who dares to question this arrangement. They are accused of espionage against our greatest benefactor, the U.S., with near total impunity. To even point this out is to be labeled the worst thing in modern politics, because the goal of that label is to shut down all discussion by a form of character assassination. But you, my audience of loyal patriots who are America first and only, must see this clearly, and it's the biggest issue our beloved nation faces. Our government's first loyalty often is not to the American people. Until we break this stranglehold, we will never be a free or sovereign nation again. Our policy, one could even call it the Patriot policy, must always be America first, not America second or America last. Now, red pill number 2, which they called a conspiracy theory for a long time, but is now being broadly displayed and brazenly to the American public, is the demographic shift, or what is also known as the Great Replacement. What you see happening in your cities and towns is not an accident, and don't let them tell you that you aren't seeing what you are seeing with your very own eyes. This is not a random and organic demographic shift. It is the most audacious social engineering project in human history. The demographic and cultural transformation of the United States and every other Western nation is a deliberate, calculated strategy orchestrated by the elite. Their goal is the eradication of the nation state. They view national borders, unique cultures, and especially the cohesive, historically rooted populations of the United States, which is Europeans, as the primary obstacles to their goal of total global control. Their method is twofold, which is not only physical replacement, but also psychological conditioning to reinforce this. The physical replacement is achieved through the policy of mass immigration, both legal and illegal. The powerful chambers of commerce, big business, and tech giants lobby endlessly for open borders because they want cheap, docile labor to suppress the wages of the American working class. Simultaneously, the political left supports it because they understand that changing the demographics changes the voting demographics forever, creating a permanent, dependent voting bloc of people that just vote to get free shit that will keep them in power. They cynically use humanitarian rhetoric to disguise what is essentially an act of demographic warfare against the native population. Now, the second front is psychological. This is where the schools and the media comes in. They are systematically teaching an entire generation to despise its own heritage. They are taught that their ancestors were uniquely evil, that their civilization is a source of oppression, and that patriotism is a form of bigotry. This is engineering people to hate themselves so they will willingly accept their own replacement. They are told to celebrate diversity, while the social trust, shared values, and our once high trust society with a relatively shared and common culture that bind a nation together are deliberately shattered. This is a cold clinical process of dissolution. It is designed to create a rootless consumer population with no loyalties to God, family, their own people, their own blood, and their own nation, whose only identity is that of a global citizen, which is a perfect subject for keeping the elites in charge and at a cheap price of their labor as well. Recognizing this is not a conspiracy theory as they told you it was in the past, it is recognizing the stated goals of the world's most powerful individuals and institutions. Next, red pill number 3. The regime media is the enemy of the people. It is time to stop using the word media and start using the word regime. These are not news organizations. No, journalism died a long time ago. What they are is the propaganda and psychological operations wing of the elite establishment. Their primary function is not to inform the citizens of what's simply going on, but to manipulate it, and to shape the perceptions, and to control the narrative, as well as enforcing ideological conformity. CNN and Fox act in opposition of each other, but they are simply just two sides of the same coin. They are the guard dogs of the status quo, and their job is to attack anyone who threatens the agenda of those in power. Consider their record. They manufactured consent for the Iraq War, pushed a lie to the public about weapons of mass destruction as undeniable fact. They openly colluded with numerous political campaigns to suppress major news stories about corruption because it was damaging to their preferred candidate. They have relentlessly smeared any dissenting voice as racist, fascist, or extremist, not through debate but through character assassination. They are the ones who amplify every destructive cultural trend, from transgenderism aimed at children to the narrative that the nuclear family is oppressive and should be ended. They celebrate every attack on our traditions and every indicator of our social decay. They operate in a constant state of moral panic, creating new villains and new outrages, and the next event for everyone to hyper-focus on to keep the population frightened, confused, and divided. They hate the working class, they hate traditional Americans, and they hate Christianity. They are the engine behind the culture war, and they are not neutral observers. They are active participants fighting for one side, which is the side that wants to tear down the old world and build their bleak, globalist utopia on its ashes. To consume their product is to be psychologically manipulated. The first step to thinking freely is to unplug from their matrix. Seek out independent journalists, alternative platforms, and thinkers who are not beholden to this corrupt system. Your mind is the battleground, and the regime media is the enemy planted in your home. Next, red pill number 4. Almost everything we eat and drink is slop, and it makes you weak and sick. The assault on our nation is not just political or cultural, it is also biological. The system is actively making us physically and mentally weaker, creating a population that is sick, dependent, and incapable of the kind of political action that is needed to reclaim our sovereign homeland. This is a holistic attack on the health of our people. It begins with our food. The standard American diet is a formula for disease. It is saturated with industrial processed seed oils like canola, soybean oil, and corn oil, all of which I made a video on, by the way, which are inflammatory agents that is linked to heart disease, obesity, diabetes, and mental fog. Our food is loaded with high fructose corn syrup, preservatives, pesticides, and other chemicals that disrupt our endocrine system, leading to an epidemic of low testosterone in our young men, and they degrade our health. We are quite literally being poisoned for profit. Then comes the medical establishment. They treat the symptoms of this poisoning not by addressing the root cause, but by treating the symptoms instead, and pushing more medications. We are a nation drugged into submission. Normal human emotions like sadness, anxiety, and high energy are called a disease and medicated with mind-altering chemicals like SSRIs. This creates lifelong customers for Big Pharma but leaves people numb, dependent, and disconnected from their bodies and spirits. The results of this are right in front of our faces, with plummeting testosterone levels in men, skyrocketing rates of depression and autoimmune disorders, and a general physical softening of the population. A weak people cannot defend their rights, their families, or their nation. Reclaiming our health is therefore a foundational act of political and cultural rebellion. It means rejecting their processed food-like substances and returning to a traditional diet of real meat, eggs, raw dairy, and fresh vegetables. It means the gym and strength training and spending time in nature and getting sunlight. It means saying no to doctors who want to put your children on puberty blockers or put you on antidepressants or some other sort of mood-altering medication as a first resort and not a last resort. Sovereignty starts with the self. We must become strong, resilient, and clear-headed patriots to have any hope of winning. Now, last but not least, red pill number 5, which I have also already made a video on, is the belief of liberal democracy and how it is actually a failed system. The entire philosophical project of the Enlightenment, with its values of liberalism, radical individualism, and democracy, has reached its logical and catastrophic conclusion. It is a failed system that inherently leads to cultural degeneracy, social fragmentation, and ultimately national dissolution. The Founding Fathers feared democracy and egalitarianism for this exact reason, so they created a republic with strict limits, knowing that pure democracy is mob rule. This system of liberal democracy prioritizes the individual instead of the family, the community, and the nation. It champions abstract rights while eroding duties and responsibilities. This hyper-individualism has shattered the social fabric, leaving us with a society of atomized, lonely consumers who share no common bonds or higher purpose. It is a system that naturally progresses towards hedonism and nihilism. Even further, democracy is easily hijacked. It empowers the mediocre and is perfectly engineered to be manipulated by a clever, parasitic elite. They use the language of equality and tolerance to dismantle all traditional hierarchies, values, and structures that provide meaning and order. They have used it to push every form of cultural degeneracy, from the celebration of mental illness and sexual deviancy to the destruction of the family unit. They have used it to replace a common national identity with a fractured landscape of grievance-based identity politics designed to set everyone against each other. The solution is not to try and fix this broken system. The solution is a whole rejection of it. We must move towards a model of governance that is unapologetically focused on the health and continuity of our people. This means a strong hierarchical state that puts the interests of the native population first. It means a return to traditional values, a revival of faith, and the rebuilding of the family as the central unit of society. That means our politics and policies must be unapologetically America first and America only. Our identity is not based on a passport or a set of ideas. It is based on blood, soil, shared history, and the one and only God in Jesus Christ. Liberal democracy is the road to national suicide. Our only path to survival is to get off that road entirely. So, these 5 pillars are all connected. They form a complete picture of the multi-front war being waged against us. It's geopolitical, demographic, psychological, biological, and philosophical. You must see the pattern and understand the strategy. Then go out and fight back against it. Not a call for violence, by the way, as that needs to be mentioned. God bless you all and your families, and remember our core doctrine and motto, America first and only. Jimmy Talks out.